With the European Silk Road Summit just around the corner, today we will dive into two developing new Silk Road routes, the Middle and South corridors. This is RailFreight Live. Hello everyone, it's Friday 3 December and we're just 4 days away from the European Silk Road Summit taking place in Amsterdam on 7 and 8 December. Our topic for today will focus on the Middle and South Silk Road corridors, the possibilities that they have and the problems that they might face. For this purpose, we have prepared two interviews, one with Mr. Andreas Schwilling from Roland Berger and one with Murat, Karatekin, the CEO of Pasifik Eurasia. Mr. Schwilling, we will start with you. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for being here today.
It's my pleasure.
So, first things first, since we're talking about the Middle and South Silk Road corridors, can you please explain to us which route each corridor follows and which countries does it pass through?
Yes, well, of course, as all Silk Road traffic, it starts in China and then it goes west to Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, across the Caspian Sea, that's the Middle Corridor, to Azerbaijan, and then either to Georgia or to Turkey, from Georgia, usually across the Black Sea with a ferry, and the alternative is via Turkey to Europe. And then the Southern Corridor has basically the same start, but then does not cross the Caspian Sea, but goes via Iran to Turkey and then to Southeast Europe. These are the main two corridors.
Okay, so both corridors involve Central Asian countries a lot, right?
Yes, indeed.
Now, when did the Silk Road services commence via these corridors?
Well, I would say 5 to 6 years ago, we had the first pilot trains. Then a little bit more activity has been ongoing since two or 3 years.
And which one of the corridors has grown more during this period of time?
Well, of course, both corridors have still very, very low volumes compared to the northern corridors. So I would sort of estimate less than 1 or 2%. And among those two corridors, it's basically just the middle corridor that has volumes today. The corridor via Iran is, due to the political sanctions, basically not active. And this is of course a key obstacle in further developing this corridor.
Yes, I understand. And how can such an obstacle be overcome? I mean, it's a political situation that needs to change.
Yes, exactly. And you know, we cannot enter in political discussions here. Of course, it has is connected with the whole nuclear treaty that is again in negotiation, even right now, and in Vienna. And that's the prerequisite, because Western companies are not allowed to do business with Iran right now. And that's the key requirement to be able to operate on these routes. And of course, the middle corridor is the alternative. And that's why among the two, it has become more important. Yeah.
More popular, let's say, has more volumes, I guess, right?
Exactly.
All right, and but I guess apart from the political aspect, I think that both corridors face some other issues as well. I think infrastructure problems are among the main issues. Is that right?
Yes, there are still quite some areas for improvement. Parts of the corridors are single track only. Significant parts are not electrified. We then also have bottlenecks in the ferry operations, both across the Caspian Sea, but also across the Black Sea. Boats are not operating regularly or are unreliable if weather is bad. We then, in addition, of course, face also border crossing problems. In contrast to the northern corridor here, we have a lot of border crossings. Many more than in the northern countries, where it's basically just China, Russia, and Kazakhstan involved until you get to the EU. And these border crossings are all connected with customs procedures, which are right now another key bottleneck.
And are countries involved in the corridors working together closely currently? Because you mentioned the bottlenecks, you mentioned the multiple border crossings. How is the cooperation of countries going on now?
Well, the cooperation is improving. Initiatives have been set up. And the countries and also the other stakeholders in the countries, especially the railways, are now aware of the things that have to be done to further develop this corridor, or both corridors. But as I just mentioned, there's still some way to be covered and some things to be done.
Now, I guess infrastructure upgrades, better cooperation also need investments. They are both part of the new Silk Road. We're talking about China-Europe flows. So who should be responsible for these investments? Should China take the lead? Should Europe step in maybe? Is it an opportunity? Or should the corridors rely only on private investments?
Well, in my opinion, it should be a mixture of all players. Of course, first priority is that each country should take care of its own infrastructure. Especially, or at least to a large extent. Then private players and also the EU and China should jump in if funds are not sufficient. And that of course is partly the case. And I think the joint development of these corridors is in the interest of all. It's in the interest of the local countries, which of course benefit from economic development, but it's also in the interest of both Chinese and European stakeholders, because we get another corridor with good reliability, with environmentally friendly transports, and this is a valuable complement to the northern corridors, especially for countries in Southeast Europe, where they are the natural catchment area for these two corridors. Of course, to northern countries, also the northern corridors are more attractive and offer the shorter distance. But for the southern European countries, the middle and the south corridor are viable alternatives. If the infrastructure is improved and the political problems have been resolved.
Do you foresee any positive developments in the near future in this sense?
Yes, well, we have observed additional infrastructure improvements, customs problems, also introducing electronic data exchange for customs procedures. So it's a steady, ongoing and gradual progress, which of course makes us all hoping for these corridors to develop fast.
Yes, I imagine that digitalization is key to grow both corridors. Okay, Mr. Schwilling, you will also be present in the European Silk Road Summit next week, discussing about this topic. What are the key takeaways that you are looking forward to addressing most?
Well, I will first explain the overall situation in general. Also elaborate a little bit more on the bottlenecks that I quickly pointed out. And then I will suggest a couple of actions that we recommend, both in terms of infrastructure, in terms of customs procedure, and politics, portray a way forward to further develop the middle and the southern corridor.
All right, sounds very interesting. And what do you expect to learn from the summit?
Well, in general, the Silk Road Summit is, of course, an excellent opportunity to generally learn about all developments on the Silk Road, new origin and destinations, so routes that are offered, recent numbers in terms of volumes, recent developments in terms of additional type of goods that are transported, progress in topics that have been difficult, such as hazmat transports in China. So I expect that it will be a very interesting discussion at the summit.
Great. All right. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Schwilling. I will see you next week in Amsterdam.
Yeah, it was my pleasure, and see you next week there.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.
All right, and now our next guest might not be live, but we met with him a few days ago during this week. It is Murat Karatekin, and he will talk about Pasifik Eurasia's ambitions in the Middle Corridor. All right, so Mr. Karatekin, first of all, thank you very much for accepting the invitation for this interview. You're the CEO of Pasifik Eurasia since the beginning of the company, right?
Yep.
Nice. So what are your goals for Pasifik Eurasia?
Well, I mean, given the recent impacts, economical impacts, logistic impacts that affected the world, I think our prime mission is to create sort of eco-friendly habitats as far as logistics and its economics are concerned. So we have a serious, shortage of containers globally. So the more closed, healthy ecosystems we create logistically, and if we can manage to, deliver our containers full basis with full return, loaded return containers, which would be the biggest effect to reduce the cost. That would be it, create a sort of unhealthy environment that would impact less towards the clientele and the forwarders in the region.
And you are active in the New Silk Road's Middle Corridor and the BTK line, the Baku-Kars Tbilisi line.
Tbilisi line.
Yes, precisely. How has the year, how has 2021 been so far for you?
Well, I mean, the number of, let's say, transportation of the containers as well as wagons increased by, 4 times.
4 times. That's impressive.
Yep. And it's very likely to continue like that. And then in the beginning of the year, we only had, let's say, 8 parkers up and running. Now we increased the number of parkers to 11. It's very likely that we will have through the beginning of next year 13 or 14 new parkers. So the more parkers we add up to the system, the more diversified the logistics gets via the railways. So logistics will be more, I would say, fruitful, especially for the exporters of the East and West.
You also have some dedicated trains from Turkey to China and back. How many trains did you send this year, and do you foresee more growth there?
Well, so far it's over, let's say, 50 block trains in between Turkey and China, and compared to North Corridor, it's just peanut. However, the numbers have been increasing drastically. I foresee that the numbers will be, I think, at least 5 or 6 times more in the coming year. We just try to pay attention to make a sort of a balanced transportation from east to west, west to east. And we're trying to create a sort of a ratio. Now it's around about 20%, but we want to maintain at least 50% of a ratio. That would be really, sustainable for the near future.
What kind of cargo do you mainly transport between Turkey and China? Is there a specific demand?
Well, I mean, from Turkey to China, especially, very strategical raw materials like borax, that type of material. As far as export from China to Turkey is concerned, it's basically, electronics, electrical, devices in particular. That's the main segment.
Okay. And apart from China, do you also reach other countries towards the east? For instance, Iran or Afghanistan, or is China the only country where you go to?
Well, majority of our transportation is basically oriented to Central Asia. I mean, Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkmenistan, Kyrgyzstan, and Uzbekistan, and also including Afghanistan. We've been, delivering these UN food program cargoes in particular, especially nowadays. It has been a sort of a heavy cargo burden on our shoulders, but we feel that it's primary issue. And the number of countries, of course, will double up.
Okay.
But we like to add Eastern, Asian countries, in particular Vietnam, Thailand, neighborhood for the near future in next year.
Yes, I see. Now, regarding the middle corridor, how does it operate so far? Do you face any bottlenecks there? Are there some things that could get better?
Well, it's a sort of multimodal system because we need to, trespass Caspian Sea.
Yes.
And the borders are not getting more and more congested. This is another, bottleneck. But we're trying to figure out some optional additional systems to increase the efficiency. And Caspian Sea transportation has been developing, better and better over the months. But we have bottlenecks, in particular at the borders. But, this is business as usual, right?
Yes, of course. You also cooperate with Rail Cargo Group, and I think this also helps establishing flows towards the west, right?
Exactly.
So
exactly.
You use the Köseköy terminal as your main hub with Rail Cargo Group. Is this terminal your only hub, or do you also have other terminals that are important for you?
Well, we have, starting from Kars, we have at the moment 6 different hubs, but Köseköy plays a very, crucial role because this is the starting point of our, export trains or end of our import trains to and into China. And also it's the start point of our, export trains from Turkey to Europe. Having said that, including the other stations, we are organizing 40 block trains a week in between, Europe and Turkey. But giving this ground mile program in hand, I think we need to double the number of block trains in and out from Turkey to Europe.
And towards the west, which destinations do you reach via Köseköy?
Well, towards west, via Hungary, we end up in, Austria, and then in and out of Hungary and Austria, basically each and every European country, in particular Germany, Netherlands, and Belgium, and their own. So we are facilitating a rail cargo system already in hand. And but one thing that we really need to do is to increase or at least double the block train numbers next year to Europe.
Okay. You mentioned before the Kars Logistics Center.
Yep.
It seems to be a very big thing in Turkey, a very big establishment there with huge facilities and lots of rail tracks. But it's not so well known outside Turkey. So can you please explain to us what exactly is the Kars Logistics Center? What is its importance in your supply chain, and what potential does it have?
It's just a very valuable junction. Okay, it's like okay, you need to have your strong muscles, but if your junction is not let's say effective enough, so there's no point. So Kars Logistics Center serves to this purpose in a sense that we need to increase the number of block trains in and out, from Turkey towards east. And it plays a sort of a short distance, let's say, circuit system between Georgian border to Kars. And from Kars there on, we have, various block trains distributing the cargoes to various, let's say, directions into Turkey. And also, facilitating more and more, let's say, transit cargo out of Turkey to the Mediterranean, let's say, countries, in particular, North Africa and so on. So its location is a bit remote, operating in Kars, giving the, weather conditions and, other factors, not that easy, but it gives sort of a flexibility within the system, and the number of containers or wagons that you're able to handle in between Turkey and Georgia is now increased by 30% thanks to this Kars Logistics Center. But it's tough operating over there, very tough.
Why though?
Well, one thing for sure is that, throughout winter, you're faced with very tough, weather conditions. And secondly is, for the sake of maintenance, the human resources, maintenance-wise, are not there. So anything goes wrong, you need to be having sort of human resources standby. And given the fact that it's relatively, far away from this very, economical center of Turkey. I would say Istanbul, Ankara, and Mersin area. Logistically, it's not that, let's say, easy playground.
Yes.
But it's getting more and more there. But I think the crucial, role of Kars Logistics Center is that it's also sort of an entrance of strategical, let's say, raw materials coming out of Russia and Central Asia into Turkey. So the more, let's say, the more capacity we put into the Kars Logistics Center, the better the logistics terms will get for the, let's say, industrial, let's say, clientele that are using these raw materials. So it's there, it's picking up.
All right. Now we spoke about the middle corridor, and there were some statements by the Turkish minister lately, with some impressive numbers actually, saying that Turkey aims to absorb approximately 30% of the volumes from the Russian corridor towards the middle corridor via the BTK line. How feasible do you think this is? Do you think you have enough capacity to handle so much more volumes?
Well, there's huge infrastructure investment program in hand. Once they are finished off, the capacity will be there. But it's taking time, and but once it's all saturated and put in the system, the capacity will be there for sure.
Yes, you mentioned a huge infrastructure project launched by Turkey currently. And also the Turkish transport minister mentioned that the country is going to invest 60% more in railway projects. Do you see any specific developments in this sense? Do you expect something that will benefit Pasifik Eurasia as well?
Well, it's a benefit that will have a sort of extreme impact in between, let's say, first of all, starting from Central Asia, including Turkey and Europe. It's a constant development. It's already progressing well as we speak. And the numbers that we are recording right now will be relatively low compared this infrastructure program is completed. And it's going to be immense. It's not going to be comparable to what we have in terms of, cargo volumes and the projections and so on. It's going to be huge. It's going to be very beneficial for each and every country, each and every, let's say, region. It's going to be marvelous. I truly believe in that.
So maybe the role of Turkey in the Eurasian transport will also change a lot after that.
It's very likely to do so, but given the fact that the capacity of let's say cargoes to be transported from A to B, doubling up every single year passing by. So there will be huge amount of demand okay, the infrastructure capacity is doubling up, quadrupling up, and it's going to go likely very, as we continue. It's going to be sort of quite a challenge yet, because demand is always there and it's picking up. And you put, infrastructure with, wider capacity, larger capacity, fine. But the more we put, let's say capacity into the system, the larger, even, far larger the trading volume gets. So it's a sort of a bit of competition. And it's for the benefit of each and every, let's say, person enjoying trading within the area. And it's a sort of very wide area, starting from China and all the way to Europe. It's not yet there, but it's getting there.
Okay.
It's getting there.
All right. And now one final question. We discussed about investments. We discussed about east-west routes. What do you think could be Turkey's and probably Pasifik Eurasia's role on the north-south axis? Do you have any plans there?
Well, we have plans to sort of creating a sort of injection to the system, because we truly believe in that the linear logistics system is sort of a history. Okay, we need to create a sort of healthy triangle, let's say, exchange systems that will be beneficial for the all, let's say, triangle points of the area. And the more triangle we create, and the more beneficial get for furthermore, let's say, partners within the region. I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean north, east, west. It's got to be, further beneficial for the, welfare of the entire region. And we have negotiations, we have, discussions going on. And very soon, maybe beginning of next year, you'll see some improvements regarding to this effect.
Okay, I think we are all looking forward to them. Thank you very much, Mr. Karatekin, for your time and insights.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
All right, and now before we close today's show, one last reminder for the European Silk Road Summit taking place next week in Amsterdam. All physical tickets are already sold out, but you can still secure your place digitally by purchasing an online ticket. Moreover, our online hosting platform Brella is ready, and we have prepared an onboarding video on how to use it. So make sure that you log in, set up your profile, and prepare for endless streaming and networking possibilities. Now, that was all for today. Thanks everyone for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and stay updated on the latest industry news. Goodbye for now, and see you next week.
En ook u kunt hier zitten, want deze coronaproof studio is te huur voor uw congres, vergadering of webinar. We hebben alle techniek in huis om u hierbij te helpen. Kijk voor meer informatie op promedia.nl. Ik zie u graag in onze studio.